One, two, you know what to do.
All right, I think we're recording now. Great. It looks like it's up and running. Okay, everybody, guys, welcome back to another episode of Style to Set. I am so excited you are here and you're with us to delve into the nitty gritty of these amazing people that make these beautiful images and make shoots happen. And today, I am beyond thrilled, beyond honored to have Loren Wood with us today. She is a classically trained chef. She has worked in James Beard award-winning restaurants for 10 years before she made the big leap into freelance world in food styling, and she has worked with some of the biggest names you can think of, from Chick-fil-A and Coca-Cola to the Pioneer Woman. She's done editorial work and commercial work. She also has a passion for pastry, and I am so excited for you guys to get to meet her, to hear some of her wild and crazy stories, and then also just to hear about some of the behind the scenes shenanigans that can go on with food styling. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, Loren, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm honored, very much so. So
Oh, gosh.
this is gonna be great. We're gonna
Right back at you.
really let people know it all. So
Yes, girly. So, okay, so Lauren, start us off by telling us a little bit about you and about your journey and how you kind of got into food styling.
so I graduated culinary school after trying a couple different things that just didn't really stick.
Mhm.
Graduated in 2002, and I immediately started working for Frankensteined, and I was just plating desserts, just really green. And I was there for probably 6 years total, and I kind of worked my way up to being the pastry chef there. But when I was leaving, Frank was working on his first cookbook, and
Mm.
there's this phenomenal photographer there that was working on his book, Christopher, and I was just enamored. Like they were asking me to make this food for photography, and I was just making, I wasn't a food stylist. I was just making pretty food, right? And
Yeah.
so I kind of started seeing him mess with the cheesecake or the cookie or style it on the plate. And I just sort of got interested. And from
Mhm.
there, it was like God just opened up the heavens and was like, here's your
Mhm.
opportunity. I had a friend call me and say, oh, they're hiring back then it was Time Inc. And, I'm going to apply. I think you should apply. And we both applied, and she got the position at Time Inc. And then
Mhm.
I heard about Hoffman Media had the same position open. So I applied there and I got the job there. And so that's kind of how I got started in it. I was completely new to the world of food styling, just knew how to develop recipes and cook food. And so just trial by fire got thrown in right away.
I love that. I feel like that's the story of so many stylists I know is they're just brave. They're like, I saw it,
Yeah.
I got enamored by it, and I just knew I could do it. It's like there's something in each of us. It's like, I'm just gonna do this. Like I'm just gonna
Right.
take the leap. And I think that's so beautiful. And I think that's so brave. And to give a little context to listeners who may not be familiar with who Frank Stitt is, that Lauren just mentioned, he is, I believe he's won the James Beard Award many times.
Couple times. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
For Highlands Bar and Grill. And then his pastry chef, Doll Esther, who I was trained under too, also won
Mhm,
a couple years
mhm.
ago the James Beard Award. So
Oh, that's amazing. And he was responsible for like pioneering farm to table food in
absolutely.
Alabama,
Yes.
basically.
He has a lot of
Yeah.
little disciples, you could say, that have now gone on and opened
Yes.
their own, and they're starting to win awards and be nominated, which is great. So, yeah.
Yes. That's so amazing. So Lauren like really, really worked hard in a very demanding kitchen. So she brings this beautiful attention to detail to styling. So she comes from this background of pastry that has now gone to styling. So, okay. So Lauren, tell us about Hoffman Media. So what were they doing over there? What magazines were they making? What kind of stuff were you styling over there?
Gotcha. So when I came in, imagine coming from a restaurant where you're making enough of one dessert to feed 36 people, right? So you're
Mhm,
making batches of, I've got 36 little blueberry, lattice pies, and I have,
mhm,
40 flourless chocolate torts or whatever. And so
mhm,
coming into recipe development for a magazine, you're developing one recipe that may feed six people. You've got the home cook
mm,
at home, so
mhm,
that's kind of when I started there. It was very small back then. It was only two other people, Rebecca Tuliatos at that time, and another lady named Amy Bishop, and me. So out of
mhm,
all the recipes that were
mhm,
developed for the magazines back then, it was Cooking with Paula Deen, Southern Lady,
mhm,
Tea
mhm,
Time, Taste of the South. They had a couple books and SIPs, which are special interest publications that they would
mhm,
publish, would pull from the magazines
mhm,
usually for that. And so
mhm,
from there in 2000, I think I started there in I was working both at the restaurant and there for about 2 or 3 years. But I think it was
Wow.
2006 I started there, and it was just wild. I knew
Yeah.
nothing, and I remember them having to sit down with me and be like, "This is how you edit these recipes," and this is, and they give me like little notes and tell me to look back in the other magazines. But it was
Mm.
from concept to completion, literally. Like,
Wow.
here's what we want you to do. You can only use these ingredients. It needs to cost this much. We need six
Mhm.
recipes. Get it done. And then
Wow.
you would taste it and show it to them, and then we'd save it if we could and
Yeah.
photograph it. And if not, we'd make it again and go on location at someone's house and shoot it. But so
Mhm.
that was 10 full years of that. And we developed about 2,000 recipes each a year. So it was
Lauren,
quite a lot.
holy
Yeah.
cow.
Yeah.
So were you developing recipes just for dessert, or were you also in the savory side of things?
It's funny you asked because when I came in, that's what they wanted. They were like, "Oh, we want you to do
Mm.
all the cake covers, and that'd be great." And
Yeah.
they threw me on Tea
Yeah.
Time magazine, which is little foods and little, more ornate, more
Mhm.
specialty, I guess. And then we started from year one, started picking up more publications, more names.
Mhm.
Sandra Lee was thrown in the mix, and then they threw in
Mhm.
Victoria, which I worked
Mhm.
exclusively on until I left there. But it started out as desserts, and then it
Mhm.
kind of branched into, I really enjoyed doing like a whole meal or
Yeah.
doing a salad story or, a casserole story or whatever. So
Yeah.
I did both. I have to say I did more desserts than savory, but I definitely did both for the 10 years I was there.
That's so cool. Okay, so I need to hear about this though, because I feel like the saying that is so impressive. And so, like, you went from just being in sort of the background in the kitchen to all of a sudden you're putting food in front of a camera and you're making a recipe that you're confident that your mom can go home and make. I mean,
Right?
those are really like hard things to do.
Yeah.
So tell me about what was that transition like for you? I mean, do you have an outstanding memory of a shoot you're on where you were like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I've got to solve this problem. Like, what comes to your mind when
Oh,
you think about that?
so many, Callie. It,
Ah.
girl, I was thrown in. Okay, like I just
Oh,
remember I idolized Rebecca Tuliatos. She came from
yeah.
this background in catering, and like she could just work. She's like, I've never seen anybody like her. She just can get in, and
Right.
I was not made that way. I was just
Mhm.
circling myself. Do you know what I mean? I was like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh,
Mhm.
like how am I going to do this? And so I remember she had to pull
Yeah.
me aside at one point and say, okay, you are really smart and you're really good at what you're doing, but you're just like running
Yeah.
around all over the place, and I need you to just
Yeah.
focus in and slow down. And it was
Yeah.
it was very harsh, but it was something I needed to hear. And I remember
Mhm.
crying. I went home and cried and was like, what am I
Mhm.
doing? I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
doing. And um every once in a while they would throw in a little food styling course for us. You know what I mean? Like, but
Mm,
but
okay,
Rebecca
yeah.
would get to go and I never got to go. And they would come back and try to teach us stuff. So I just watched videos at home. I was following Tammy
Wow.
Hardiman and all these other food stylists around the country
Yeah.
and just seeing their work and trying to research how to make things happen on set.
Mhm.
You know exactly what I'm
Mhm.
talking about. Like,
I do. Mhm.
something shiny and something that won't, die. Or but I
Mhm.
I remember being in people's homes, because like back then we did a whole lot of location photo shoots. We would
Mhm.
pack up all the food that we had made and some that was just
Oh,
prepped and just show up at somebody's
Lord.
house and take over their kitchen, right? Or their dining room and whatever.
And just to
Oh,
give context to this, you guys, this is a huge deal. Like, to think about food, like, typically when people think about food, they're thinking about, I'm gonna have somebody over for supper, and I'm gonna make the food, and then after I make the food, I'm just gonna put it right down, and they're just gonna eat it. Well, like, with food shoots, there is such a timing to things like Lauren is beginning to, in this season, I'm sure, understand, I can't go ahead and bake the lasagna before I bring it over there. Like, it's gonna
right,
fade. So I have to, so she's not only thinking of like what food she's bringing, but the steps that it takes to get it to be beautiful on camera. There's so much
right.
to just like even packing up food to bring to a location shoot. It's so much more
Transporting it.
difficult
Yeah,
to yeah, like location shoots are so much of a different ballgame than being in a studio with a studio kitchen and having all that at your like
agreed.
fingertips. This is a totally different thing.
I
So
think it's
sorry to interrupt you, Lauren,
Oh
but
no, I you paint such a descriptive, amazing picture. You're so good at doing this because I like to just talk, talk, talk. But you're right. It's
yeah.
like imagine doing a catered event mixed
Mhm.
with a photo shoot, mixed
Yes.
with, having to be extremely diligent and almost militant in your order
Yes.
of how you cook things off. And,
Mhm.
I can't
Mhm.
start cooking this yet, or I have to par cook the pasta. I can't cook it all the way because
Yes.
it'll get
Yeah.
soggy, and along the way learning things like what to do to that pasta to make it hold
Mhm.
longer. Like those were
Mhm.
hard earned blood, sweat, and tears, like true facts that I had to learn, with along with you
Yes.
too. Like
Yes.
some people are kind enough to tell us. Some photographers may
Mhm.
share with us, oh, well, another stylist did this. Some people won't.
Mhm.
They'll let you just crash and
Mhm.
burn. So,
Yes.
and that's really hard, because
Yeah.
you're sitting there like sweating, feeling like it's
Mhm.
like we're curing cancer when it's just food, but you're like, what am I going
Mhm.
to do? This looks awful, and they're looking at
Yeah.
me, to make this
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there is a whole lot of insecurity along with confidence, I think, in it, because
Oh, for
you can
sure.
cook, right? Like,
Yeah.
and you have a good sense of style, or you know how to composition, like put it out on a
Mhm.
plate and make it look good.
Mhm. Mhm.
But it's a whole nother ball game, like making it all come together. It's you feel like you're wearing 100 hats, I guess.
Yes. Well, because you are.
Yeah,
Because you are. Because you're keeping things organized. You're keeping mindful of, like, what's in the fridge, what's in the oven, what's coming out. And then in addition to, and I can only speak to this from, growing up in Southern Alabama, when you enter into someone's home, it's a whole other thing of, like, making sure that you're in someone else's kitchen,
right,
okay? So you're getting things right in someone else's kitchen, so you've gotta keep it really clean, and you've gotta make sure that you're
right.
not, like, breaking anything or, like, putting a
Uh,
hot thing where it shouldn't go, or
yes,
there are all these different, elements that are added to you when you're shooting in someone's home.
it's like a
So,
physical challenge. Yeah, it's crazy.
it is. It is crazy. Okay, so Lauren, tell me about one of your biggest wins when you were in that phase of working for the magazine, like a shoot you were really proud of, or like a favorite recipe you developed. Like, do you have anything that comes to your mind?
I definitely do have. Okay, so like one time we were on a shoot, we were in a beautiful home in Mountain Brook.
Mm.
Everything in there was like a museum. I think she actually owned an antique
Um,
store, the owner, and so you were afraid to use anything, right? Like same
yeah.
thing, like can I sit this down here? I mean, you're just
Yes.
anyway. So we're doing a shoot outside, even though we're prepping a lot of things inside, and it was
Oh, and outside
very
shooting's a whole other
right.
thing.
And yeah,
Woo.
weather, lighting, ugh,
Yes.
but so it was a whole, and when we go on those shoots, just to put it in perspective, there's
Yeah.
usually a prop stylist who does the tableware, the linens,
Mhm.
the background. Then there's the
Mhm.
photographer, obviously, who photographs, and then there's the food stylist. And
Mhm.
we were never given an assistant back in those days. I didn't even know assistants existed,
Oh, bless, Lauren.
So
Wow.
yeah, doing it all, pregnant, everything,
Yeah.
but so we're outside, we're setting up for a beautiful tablescape of this like Victoria tea, right? And there was this cake. I remember it was sort of like an angel food cake consistency, but it was a layer cake. I just remember it being a
Mhm.
very light cake. And for some reason, in this particular tea, we also had red wine on the table. I can't remember the exact details of why, but there was some red wine, because in
Oh, no.
Victoria magazine, it's ethereal and
Yes.
citrusy, and um,
Yes.
so anyway, it was really windy, but it was time to have lunch, and a girl we were shooting with, her blood sugar was getting low, so we all went inside for a few minutes because it was very windy
Mhm.
just to eat. While we were inside the table, we heard a big crash,
Oh,
and the wind blew the wine thing over the carafe, all over the
yeah.
linens, and all over my cake. Okay, there was only one cake. This was the
No.
hero cake, that we all use the hero for, and
Oh.
I wanted to fall apart, right? Like I was like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh,
Yeah.
and so everybody was panicking, and I was like, you know what, we're only seeing one side of this cake, right?
Yeah.
So somehow I Frankenstein that thing. I mean, shoving paper
Wow.
towels in the back and putting icing on it. I mean, we had mashed potatoes in this thing, like in the back. Like
Oh my
somehow
god.
we did it. We changed the linens out. The prop house lived right down the road, and it was
Yeah.
one of the biggest selling covers ever. And if people would
Yeah.
have seen behind the tree, so to speak, you
Oh
know what I
my
mean?
word.
You would have laughed. I mean, it was just horrible,
Yeah.
hideous behind
Yeah.
that cake. It was propped up with things like pencils, and I mean,
Yes.
insane. So I was really proud that we
Yeah.
pulled that off, and I didn't
Yeah.
want to go home and cry. It's rare for me to cry on a set. I think I've done it twice ever in, almost 20 years. So
Yeah.
that was one of those where I really wanted to, but very proud of
Yeah.
that.
That's incredible. And
Yeah.
that's something that I see in so many creative females that I talk to is I wanted to fall apart,
Yeah.
but I didn't. And I would say that one of the things I am most grateful for about being a food stylist is having to rein it in and having to
Yes.
learn how to keep my composure and to keep calm. I'm telling you, I flex that muscle when I have both of my children,
Hmm.
like that ability just to kind of go inward and be like, it's going to be okay. This too shall pass. We're going to make it through. I mean, it has been such a beautiful gift to me of being a stylist is learning how to remain calm, learning how to take a breath, because the truth is that I feel like on so many sets I'm on, Lauren, you are the one by the end of the day that is sort of holding the hand of the client and taking them through these things. And if you were to break down,
Right.
it's going to really affect the
Right.
client.
They
It's going to
lose
affect, it
confidence.
affects the whole atmosphere
Yeah.
of the shoot. And so you keeping that together kept everyone together.
Yeah, it was insane, because I know there
Yeah.
have been sets where there was another set I was on. It's always a fear of mine
Yeah.
that I'd get sick somewhere or something,
Yeah.
because
Sure.
I have a
Yeah.
chronic stomach condition. And
Yeah.
another time we were in Mountain Brook and I got very, very ill, and I'm laying in this lady's
Oh,
bathroom floor, and by the
yeah.
vent in the floor, and my husband was coming to get me, and it was
Yeah.
a bad stomach virus type thing, and I just remember being like,
Oh,
oh my gosh, I'm in someone's home and they're probably like, oh,
yeah.
she's going to get us all sick.
Yes,
But yeah,
yes.
I do know what you mean. And I do feel like it is being professional. It's not hard. It's that
Mhm,
what we do, some of the
mhm,
hoops we're asked to jump through, sometimes we're like,
mhm.
really?
Yeah,
Like, really?
yeah,
I'm really
yeah,
doing this right now. But you do it with a
yes.
smile on your face, because at
Mhm,
the end of the day, you want that client to call you back. You want them
yeah,
to put in a good word for you. You want a
mhm,
good reputation. And
right.
it can be very challenging, but it has definitely aided me in other endeavors,
Yeah.
um, professionally and personally, just to remain calm and patient. So yeah, I think food stylists have to be very patient for sure.
So tell me about that, like, tell me about that idea of reputation, because you just mentioned that, like, if I am a young stylist, I'm just starting out in this world and I'm thinking, I think I might wanna do food styling, I'm thinking this is something I wanna get into. What would you tell them about how important reputation is? Like, what would your advice be to them?
Someone told me this in the very beginning, a very talented photographer that I love to work with, Ian Bagwell, right? And he goes by this whole idea, this mantra of, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on
Mhm,
time, you're late, and if you're late, you're fired. So that kind of, for
mm,
me, encompasses not just being on time, but everything. Like, do it
mhm,
to your best. Show up on time.
mhm,
Come
mhm,
prepared with your equipment. If something goes wrong and you don't have something, apologize. Send an assistant out to do
mhm,
whatever it takes to make it work, but remain calm and professional.
mhm,
I
mhm,
think that if I would have had someone in the very beginning just to look at me in my face and say, "Hey,
mhm.
ability is important, but attitude is everything."
Mm,
Like, because your ability will grow. You can practice and you
mhm,
can learn how to
mhm,
do anything, and you can talk to another food stylist, which that can be tricky
mhm.
sometimes.
We can
But
talk about that in a
yes, we
second.
need to have that piece brought in. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, I think I wish somebody would have just said, just be work hard, because that
Mhm,
truly working hard and like pounding the pavement, I would literally go out and hand printed copies of my work in a portfolio
mhm,
like 20 years ago. I'd go in and walk
mhm,
in, people wouldn't know who I was. I'd carry a dozen donuts and be like, "Hello,
mhm.
I'm Loren Wood. I'd love to work in your magazine or for your company." And I
That's
got a few
beautiful.
clients like that, but I feel like just having a good attitude and staying confident even when, the
Mhm,
phone's not ringing, because
mhm,
there can be a lot of politics in it sometimes too, of,
mhm,
once a client hires someone and they stick with that person unless that person gets sick,
mhm,
and then you get your chance. So
mhm.
when you get that chance, just stay strong.
That's right,
Yeah.
yeah. Tell me about that confidence piece for you, Lauren. Like, tell me about how you stay confident and you stay steady because in our world that is styling, it's obviously freelance, it's self-employed. So sometimes we have a lot of work, sometimes we don't have any work. Sometimes the stretches without work can feel never ending. And tell me about how you stay steady, how you stay confident in what you're doing and what that looks like for you.
For me, I think a long time ago, I relied heavily on comparison, and I would just look at
Mm,
other people's work, and,
mhm,
I'd get too much in my head. I had to
mhm,
grow from this, and I'd think, "Oh,
mhm,
well, I could never get that job." They're
mm,
working with them. That's out of reach for me right now. And it was back
mhm,
then, but it's not
mhm,
anymore. So I had to really grow
mhm,
on the confidence level. So I think
mhm,
looking at someone's work and being happy for
Mhm.
them and being like, wow,
Mhm.
that looks awesome. And
Mhm.
just having a respect for them and trying not to be jealous or try not to compare myself really helped me because I did that at first. I
Mhm.
would look at where I would want to be down the road, and I had 10 steps to get
Mhm.
there, and I was trying to get to step 10.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like everyone has a strength. Maybe your strength is organization. Maybe your
Mm.
strength is an amazing, calm attitude, or
Mhm.
just a charisma. Like you have this amazing charisma. Like everybody that
Mhm.
knows you knows it, Callie.
Mhm.
And maybe you're really good at drinks. Well, then do
Mhm.
that. Focus on that and then
Mhm.
work on things on the side. Somebody will call you to do something that you've never done before. And
Mhm.
you'll be a little uncomfortable, but I think just knowing you're good, knowing that nobody would have called you, they wouldn't call somebody that they have heard bad things about. So anytime you get a
Mhm.
call, that's your chance. So
Mhm.
believe it because they believe it. So you have to.
Mhm. I truly believe that there is an element of styling that is fake it till you make it, because if you're not put in a circumstance where you have to figure out what you're doing, you're never going to know what you're doing.
True.
Like, so if, as a young stylist, I feel like just like what Lauren's saying, you encounter a situation where you're like, I don't know what to do here. I don't know how to solve this. Welcome to the club.
Right.
I think if we're ever so comfortable in our careers that we don't feel that way anymore, we probably need to check ourselves before we wreck ourselves, because there is such an, like, Lauren carries this beautifully. There's such a humility to what we do as well, of recognizing, like, I'm not always going to know everything. I'm not always going to remember to bring everything to set. Like Lauren was saying earlier, like, have someone go get something for you. These are things that we're going to encounter, but like what Lauren was saying and like what she's modeling, like, just stay calm and know that everybody goes through this and every stylist has these experiences. And also, to Lauren's credit, watching all of the beautiful work she's done, I'm sure, Lauren, when you first started, maybe you wouldn't even have foreseen all the cool stuff you've gotten to do. And I think if you had let your getting 10 steps ahead dictate your career, you wouldn't get to do these cool things. Would you say that?
True, or it just ruins the moment. It ruins because with any
Yeah.
job we bring it home, and I think
Yeah.
especially with freelance, because especially
Yeah.
if you're a parent, let's just add that
Mhm.
element into it. Or if you
Yeah.
have dependents, okay, it doesn't have to be a
Mhm.
parent. If you have people that are depending on you, and you know,
Yeah.
my family comes first no matter what. Like I would never
Mhm.
look back and wish I would have worked this huge movie job instead of
Yes.
being at my kid's last performance of the year. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Totally.
So there's that piece to it, but yeah, I definitely think that it it just goes hand in hand, I guess. Being on set can be so hard and
Mhm.
so trying, and so I feel like if you do
Mhm.
get upset about things, if you do have a time in your life where we call it feast or famine, right? Like because the phone's
Mhm.
either ringing off the hook or you're just not busy at all, and then all you start
Mhm.
that whole thing just starts to drape over and cast over you the doubt, and I just have to remember the for me the word, like I have to remember
Mhm.
that, like you said, this too shall pass, God is faithful,
Mhm.
it's going
Mhm.
to come back around, it always does.
Mhm.
um
Mhm.
but if I get upset and stay in that, then it ruins my home life, and then that leaks back
Mhm.
into my work life.
Yeah.
So it's just really hard sometimes. Like you said, it's hard no matter what we do, right?
Yeah.
Like what
Uh-huh.
kind of hard do you want? Do you want the
Yeah.
hard of being very busy, or do you want the hard of not
Mhm.
being busy? It's hard either
Mhm.
way.
Mhm.
So just
Yes.
tough it out. Yeah, it's tough.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tough it out. Like, that is such a good word, Lauren, tough it out. 'Cause I think sometimes, I know before I got into styling, I looked at it from the other side and went, "Oh, this looks so glamorous."
It
Like,
does.
these people are working with all these famous people, and they're so beautiful, and they're so put together, and it was also sort of like you were saying a little bit earlier, it's, like, so ethereal, and it looks so magical, and look at these beautiful photos, not knowing the blood, sweat, and tears it takes to get there. And I too relate to Lauren. Like, in my early days, I was assisting a food stylist in Birmingham, and I would regularly go home and cry because I
Mhm.
just felt so overwhelmed by the learning curve, but also so overwhelmed by the demands of the job. And yeah, looking back on that now, I wish somebody had said, "Cal, you just got to tough it out,"
Yeah,
because I think it looks so glamorous, but so much of what we do, I would say, also is endurance,
it
and it
is.
is a physical push.
Yeah.
Just keep going. I think that's so good.
And
There's a
well,
lot to
and
think
just
about.
saying it maybe softer than I said it, because I do wish somebody, and I had my mom in my ear. Of course, she didn't know the dynamics. She's my mom, right?
Yeah.
So she'd be like, "You can
Yeah.
do this. You just
Mhm.
got to, just keep pushing because I don't like to be
Mhm.
knocked down.
Mhm.
In fact, if I get knocked down, I'm definitely going to get back up more fierce than
Yeah.
I was before. So some of it's proven it to myself, but there's
Mm.
also those hits to your confidence, that happen along the
Mhm.
way,
Yeah.
and that. So again, the faking it till you make it, which I think is the best like word in this, is just
Mhm.
if you don't feel
Mhm.
like you're that great right then, maybe you're
Yeah.
not, but pretend like you
Yeah.
are. Walk in
Pretend like
there,
you
your head held
are. Mhm.
high with confidence and
Yes.
be kind to
Yes.
everybody. And, okay,
Yes.
we're going to get this done. All right. And, you
Yes.
know, here's what I'll do. And would you like me to do something else? It's just all about, I guess, pleasing your client and
Mhm.
trying to do it professionally as possible. Because if
Mhm.
anything gets spread quick, it's a rumor that someone's difficult. Um,
Mhm.
and difficult can look a lot of different ways. Sometimes the job is difficult,
Mhm.
but us
Mhm.
not adding that other element to it
Mhm.
really does take you further. And not only that, you get in your mind, if I start sweating a shoot before it happens, like if I'm really
Mhm.
dreading it, like the shot list is just insane, and I'm like, we're never gonna get
Yeah.
through it. If I start mentally doing that to myself, I'll be
Mhm.
in that place when I'm there. And
Yeah.
so I've had to tell my assistant before that when she was anxious, hey, we can do this. At the end of the day, it's gonna
Yeah.
be over. We're just gonna go in and do the best we can. That's
Yeah.
all we can physically do. We're not magicians. So
Yeah.
um,
Absolutely.
that's that other piece of it too. When it's a big ask, it's very over
Yes.
ambitious, and you're like, they're expecting me to do it, and because we're the one that gets thrown under the
Mhm.
bus if it doesn't get done. Nobody else is prepping that food, right? So,
Yes.
but yeah, so that
And
can
I
be
would And I yes, I agree, and I would say something that's helped me too and has really been good for me is to set a goal for every shoot that has nothing to do with what I can produce,
smart.
but it has everything
Good.
to do with how I can make someone feel.
Ah,
So, because a lot of what we do is out of our control, like, because beauty is so subjective, I can put something on set that I think is amazing, and the client can
I know.
sometimes look at it and go like, "That is
Yes,
garbage."
I know. I don't like it at all, and you're like,
And then you're like, you
yeah.
know? And Lauren never does that because she's, like,
Oh no,
very,
no,
very
no. It
good,
works
but
the other way too, where I think it's garbage and they love it, and I'm like,
they
really?
love it,
Yeah.
right? So my goal, like, for my clients has always been, I want everybody to feel loved, and I want them to feel heard. And that is it's been so helpful to me, and it's helped me stay really calm a lot of days where I feel like I and my abilities have failed. Even though the client, I don't know if they think that or not, but there's that insecurity that rises up in my head of like, "Oh,
Mhm.
I don't think I did a good enough job."
Yeah.
But okay, but did they feel loved and did they feel heard? And
Right.
that's something I would say, Lauren, you do a beautiful job of making people feel loved and heard. And I think that sometimes that's why we get called back, not necessarily because our skill was like the best stylist in the world, but as a human being,
Right.
we were relating human to someone in the best way that we could. Would you say that?
100%. Absolutely. I mean, you just
Yeah.
nailed it. And that's what I even try to impart on my children too is
Yeah.
you're never going to go into any job or any task or for that matter any aspect of our lives feeling
Mhm.
100% confident and everything go
That's
your way,
right.
right? So it's
That's
like
right. Yeah.
we've got to be sure that we do it with a good heart. And I do
Mhm.
feel the same. That's why I was saying attitude is just everything. Because
Mhm.
say you are a Fortune 500 company and you've got to hire somebody to be in charge of it all, you can
Mhm.
have somebody that has an amazing, experience and background, but if they have this
Mhm.
horrible demeanor and attitude and they can't lead people or bring people
Mhm.
in, then what's the point? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
attitude is
Yeah.
everything. And
Mhm.
I love to do that too. I always want to try to be empathetic with the client and like even if I don't
Mhm.
like what they're asking me to do,
Yeah.
they're hearing it from somewhere up here too. Like, you know what I mean? Like it trickles down. So
Mhm.
they've got to get this
Mhm.
done and, I always try to see it from their perspective of, okay, well, why are we
Mhm.
doing it this way? And
Yeah, it's good.
even if, I'm not asking disrespectfully, it's just kind of like, okay,
Yeah.
is there a reason why we need it this way? Oh, gotcha.
Mhm.
Because nobody's ever going to ask you to do something just for the sake of being, rude.
Yes. Mhm.
I mean, there's always a reason. And sometimes there's an
Yes.
easier way through it. And so talking it out is
Yeah.
really great. And I try to communicate. Maybe I talk a little too much sometimes. That's one of my things.
No.
So I think communication is key for that, for sure.
Well, and that's a great word that I'm gonna take from the advice Lauren just gave me, which is think about it from the client's perspective. because it is so rare that anyone would ever be asking you to do something for no reason. There's
Yeah.
always something behind it. And to think about it from the way that they're seeing it is so, so helpful. That's beautiful.
And something else that nobody really mentions, I've seen this too. So sometimes
Mhm.
I've gotten to a certain point with beverages where
Mhm.
light is huge, right? We
Yep.
all know this. I never knew how big light was until I started styling beverages with real ice and prop ice. Um,
Mhm.
if I'm really struggling with something that's normally very easy for me, it's usually a
Mm.
lighting situation. So, like, I've learned over
Mm,
the
good
last few
word.
years to put a bounce card back there, or to be like,
Mhm.
"Hey, do you think we could light it a little different?" And I don't know the answer or the formula for what they should do, but sometimes I can
Mhm.
tell that it's not me, right? So sometimes it's somebody
Mhm.
else. It could be the
Mhm.
prop, it could be the product you're given to work with. So I think that piece of it is one that I was definitely not expecting. And my inexperience has also caused issues before, right? Like when we're on a
Yes.
set
Oh,
and
sure.
something we're not comfortable with and we're like, okay, well, can you walk me through it, because this is not something I've done before. But yeah, there's just so much. I don't think we could ever cover everything. You know what I mean? Like, there's just
Yes.
so many pieces to it.
But what you said about lighting, okay, this is so important too. This is another aspect of styling that we are aware of and we have knowledge of is lighting, because what Lauren said is a great advice. I have been, especially, I found it particularly with sandwiches. Like
Mm.
sandwich is something Lauren and I build a lot of.
Oof.
So if it's something that's normally easy for me and a client is looking at it and going, hey, that looks like dark inside of
Mhm.
the sandwich, or I'm not really seeing the lettuce, even though you know that you pulled the lettuce to the front or whatever that is a lighting issue.
Right.
And so that is another great, beautiful bit of advice. Ask about the lighting. If this is something you've done a lot and it's not looking like you want, lighting plays such a huge role in video, photo of food. And that is such good advice, Lauren. Brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so crazy because sometimes we're so busy that we don't, and I'm
Yes.
sure this happened to you, that you haven't paid attention to the little things. Like, and I'll sit
Mm-hmm.
something down, I may not even be done with it, and somebody's already
Mm-hmm.
pointing stuff out, and I'm like, oh,
Yes.
okay, I'm getting to it. I'm getting to it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I've learned to rotate things towards the light immediately, just because before, when I wouldn't have probably even thought about that,
Mm-hmm.
over time, there are things that you pick up and you can kind of figure, even depth of field issues, like you
Yes.
just things you pick up along the way. I never thought I'd even be able to explain what that meant, depth of field,
Yeah.
right? Until the last couple of years, or the aperture, or the shutter speed, or whatever, because I'm not a
Yes.
photographer. I know nothing about
Mm-hmm.
cameras, and people
Mm-hmm.
often confuse that, and they will ask me,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, you're a food photographer?" No,
Mm-hmm.
not at
Yeah.
all. I don't know anything about photography except for what's in front of the camera, and a couple things I've picked up, but
Yeah,
yeah.
we're not behind the lens, we are in front of the
Right,
lens,
right.
but still with that working knowledge of lighting is so huge. Lauren, I feel like we could just talk forever about all these things. There's
Yes.
so many things left to cover.
I know, I know. I feel like you need like a certain episode. Let's just hit this, because even if you did that, we're
Yes,
going to hit about 100 things during that time
right,
too, because it's so
right.
crazy.
Well, the thing that I've learned about doing this too is like I can always have people back.
Oh
There's nothing
yes.
keeping me from like us not chatting again and talking about all the things. But one thing I wanted to ask as we kind of wrap this up is, Lauren, like one thing I've noticed in all of the amazing stylists and creative people I've talked to is they carry this gift of beauty over their life. You just see the beauty in their images, you see the beauty in their work. And so I just like to kind of cap every episode with tell me about what beauty means to you, Lauren, and what it looks like in your work and in your life. Just talk to me a little bit about that.
You know, like you said, it's so subjective, I guess, and
Mhm.
that is the hard piece of it, because there's some work that I leave and I'm so proud of myself, and it wasn't anything majorly difficult or technically hard.
Mhm.
It was just something that I feel like maybe my organization was on point that day. Maybe my attitude
Mhm.
was stellar, and I was
Mhm.
calm in the face of a huge storm.
Mhm.
It kind of changes for me, I guess, the beauty of it, but I guess the thing that remains constant in all this
Mhm.
changing in what we do
Mhm.
is that, if I remember when I worked for Frank Stitt, he used to say to me,
Mhm.
"Do not send a plate out of my kitchen that you wouldn't be proud to sit in front of your mother, and
Mm.
show her this is my best work." And
Mhm.
kind of to this day, I kind of use that, is this my best?
Mhm.
Is this, if I truly have done my best, no matter
Mhm.
what it looks like when it's done, no matter what the
Mhm.
circumstances were, because I could have been
Mhm.
pushed to the brink and not had enough time to do or finish element on that sandwich or whatever.
Mhm.
For me, the beauty is when I leave, am I proud of what I did? Am I proud of how
Mhm.
that day went from the start to the
Mhm.
finish, whether it was a word out of my mouth or not a word out of my mouth? That for me is it, because we can create beautiful
Mhm.
images, without being a food stylist, right? Like you can
Mhm.
make
Mhm.
beautiful food. I think it's all about in our effort and in our, like you said, how you bless other people,
Mhm.
or how you treat the people you're working with or the assistants, or if you see somebody having a hard time, how you respond to that, how you
Mhm.
encourage them.
Mhm.
That's why I love it, because it's always challenging. Always. I've never had a shoot that was just a breeze. There's always something to it that is challenging. I just like to leave there, and I don't always, but I do try to leave proud of myself, but I don't always leave like, oh, that was just wonderful, but
Yeah.
I do like to be responsible for my character, and no one's perfect, but
Mhm.
I think that is why I've been called back to jobs, especially with clients that I've had for 10 years,
Yeah.
is because
Mhm.
I carry a good attitude, even if it's hard work, even if we have to reshoot it. I mean, they're forgiving. So, yeah.
Yes. That's beautiful. So I think what I hear you saying is beauty is character.
Yes.
And
Thank you for summing
that
that up.
character no, it's beautiful. That character looks like a good attitude, and that character looks like giving it your best, and that character looks like knowing at the end of the day you did your creative, expressive best with what you could do, what you had to work with, and I think that's so beautiful. I think that's something to chew on and to think about, and
Yeah.
Lauren, you're just I know I've told you this, but you are a beautiful mom and the hardest working stylist that I know,
Oh, you're
and
so
so
sweet.
excellent. And so thank you. Thank you for sharing your beautiful wisdom and your heart and your time with us today. I'm sure we're going to have you back because there's so many other things
I
we can
know.
chat about.
I hope so.
Um, we'll
Yeah.
yeah, we'll have to make like an outline. We're like, okay, these are the things we're going to chat about. We're going to talk about styling burgers. We're going
Yeah,
to
for sure. Because the squirrel gets my brain starts running, and
the
I'm like,
topic.
oh,
Oh no, I do the
this
same
and this
thing.
and this. Yeah. So,
Right, right. Well, but and then just to cap it on this last thing is something that Lauren really models. I watch her do is like this idea of paying it forward. And you have really paid it forward today, friend, with all of your advice and all of your wisdom. And I think this episode in particular is really going to bless people that are looking to get into styling or are into it and just need a little boost. And I think you've really, really accomplished that with what you
oh,
said.
well, thank you. That's the goal for me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I would hope so. Yeah.
Yes.
But so
Well,
great.
thank you so much, friend. We
Thank
love you.
you.
I will have all of Lauren's Instagram account. You can check out all of her beautiful work, all of her beautiful pastries, all of her beautiful recipes she's developed will be in the show notes. Links to her work, ways you can contact her and hire her. And thank you again for your time, friend. I hope you have a
Oh,
marvelous
well,
day.
thank you. You too. And you're so sweet. And if you don't see images you need, I have millions in Dropbox that I'm terrible about posting.
Yes,
So I can always
that's
send you
right.
work. Yeah. So,
I will put her contact info on those show notes so you can get in contact with Lauren.
yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much,
Great.
Callie. This was
Thank
amazing.
you,
Yeah.
friend. Have a great
Bye.
rest of your
You
day.
too. Bye bye.
Bye.